The Final Fantasy VII Remake is here. But is it everything we wanted it to be? Well, that's actually a more difficult question with this one. Short answer, it depends. So let me give you all the information you need to decide for yourself. You are watching The Gaming Greyhound? And you better ready your passport as we are approaching Midgar. As probably one of the most requested remakes in video game history, this release of Final Fantasy VII has to survive a lot of lofty expectations. But Square Enix knew what they were in for, that's why they probably waited for so long. And they did a quite good job with managing expectations. There would be episodic releases, the scope would be smaller than the original game. I think if they wouldn't have communicated it this way, the reception of the game would have looked very different. But after we waited so many years for this game, it would be cruel to let you wait any longer. So let's talk gameplay. What we have here is an entry into the series that is much closer in look and feel to the modern Final Fantasy games than to the old ones. With your roster of characters, you follow a tightly scripted story and discover the literal underbelly of Midgar. The company Shinra, which basically owns Midgar, has quite purposefully created a big gap between the poor people and the rich people. Their power and influence they mainly receive because of the fact that they own the Mako reactors and therefore provide energy to everyone. Shinra is pure evil, the game doesn't make a secret out of it. And on the other side you have Avalanche, a group of rebels coined eco-terrorists by Shinra. They want to topple the big evil corporation because the Mako stream, where they get the energy from, is, as they believe, basically the planet's life stream. Therefore, using it as an energy source is slowly killing the planet. They seem to be way past the stage of distributing flyers for their cause. Therefore, the game opens with our hero Cloud, hired as a mercenary for their cause for destroying one of the Mako reactors in the city. So you as the player are diving right into the action. For the fights you can actually choose between a classic mode and a more modern style of battle. In classic mode, the fights are turn-based instead of real-time. This however also forces you to play in easy mode. This begs the question for whom this mode actually was designed. While fans of the original will probably be glad that they can experience the game like this, they will not appreciate easy battles. They will want a challenge. But the normal difficulty is reserved for the real-time battles. Though the good news here is, it's a very optimized system and it plays much better than in Final Fantasy XV. As soon as you have more than one character, you are able to seamlessly switch between them and give them orders to use special abilities and spells. I've honestly never played a game where this works better than here. This makes for some awesome, desperate but epic feeling battles against big bosses. After battles, your characters and their weapons get experience. And while Cloud and his friends level up, you have no control about where they get stronger. Instead, you choose how to improve the weapons. While this gives you the interesting option to level different weapons differently and prepare for different situations that way, I did not find the process of leveling the weapons very exciting. And very quickly I was very thankful for the option to have this done automatically. For me personally, this is my least liked leveling system in a Final Fantasy game I've played to date. More tactical relevance is coming from which materia you choose to put into those weapons. Materia is more or less crystallized Mako. They provide you with spells like Cure, Raise, Fire, stuff like that. But the most flashy materia is the summoning kind. These are really fun to discover, so I won't spoil them here for you. Most of the time the game is quite linear. In certain chapters it opens up a little bit and lets you tackle a couple of side quests. In that regard it's actually not too different from Final Fantasy XIII. And while I did not hate that game, it was slammed pretty hard because of its linearity. I honestly don't understand why there aren't more voices complaining about this with Final Fantasy VII Remake. You certainly never feel like being in an open game world like in Final Fantasy XV. You decide if that is a good or bad thing for you. You can also find a couple of old school minigames. And while most of them are nice to have, because optional, in other parts the game designer made some questionable choices. There is this section, for example, where you have to navigate robot hands to get arrows from A to B. This is easy enough, but it is clunky, bogs down the game flow, and just no fun. I seriously don't know what they were thinking putting this into the final game. But let's move on to the game's qualities. Final Fantasy VII Remake is very story-centric. But if you have played the original, it is not an exact recreation of the story you already know. As Square Enix told us before, this is an episodic game, so this is only the first part of the journey. Splitting the story into multiple parts gave them the opportunity to put a much bigger focus on the characters and events in this game. So everything becomes much more personal. However, in doing that, they did not manage to escape all the usual tropes. There are certain parts in the story, later parts so I will not go into detail, that have an issue with pacing. It is several hours of playtime where there is a big sense of urgency accompanying our heroes. It's actually for a bit of a too long time frame, so the conclusion of this lost some of the emotional impact, at least for me. Also, while the characters constantly stated that they do not have any time to lose, they spent an infuriating amount of time standing around talking and doing and questioning other stuff. I was literally screaming at the TV for them to move the bleep on. So if stuff like this also bothers you, be aware of that. The Final Fantasy VII Remake has also a remarkable game world. There is a good number of people running around, looking appropriately busy. And even the different separated slums manage to get quite a distinctive look from one another. You see, breathe and feel the social injustice inhabiting this world, and it manages to become a driving force for the player's motivation to finish it. There were some components of the game that I really did not like that much, but the atmosphere always managed to pull me back in. The third quality, yes, it is an RPG, but for me it's a lightweight RPG. You get quests, a good story, character progression, but it's also very linear, and options to individualize your characters and the party are quite limited. That's not necessarily a bad thing. The original was a lot more intimidating in that way, so it depends on your taste. At this point, I normally speak about the technical component of the game, but for Final Fantasy VII Remake, I actually already did a complete video about this. So if you haven't seen that already, how dare you? Go over there now and then come back. If you choose not to, let me just summarize. The game looks fantastic and stunning at its best, but looks almost last generation at its worst. It's a game plagued by inconsistency, and you can probably blame that on hardware limitations. As I said, if you want to hear more about that, I have a separate video for this. That being said, let's do the summary. This is a difficult one. I have to admit, I'm not completely happy with the game. I expected something more open, feeling more like a personal journey, not because of the touching story, it does have that in spades, but because having at least the illusion of being able to choose your own path, something that the old Final Fantasy games like 7, 8 and 9 excelled in. Do I hate the game? No, I enjoyed it. But honestly, I'm a bit sad, because this will be the only remake of 7 that we get. And for me, it just does not touch the essence of what Final Fantasy VII was all about. Gameplay wise, mind you, not story wise. But you can't please them all, and this still might be a perfect game for you. So if you love a good, emotional story, can live with some dumb and slow decisions made by the characters, are a fan of a great atmosphere and beautiful game world to discover, and if you like the more modern JRPG approach, then this game is for you. If big chunks of story in your game annoy you, and your game needs to be open, better stay away and spare yourself the disappointment. So that's it. Honestly, I cannot understand how everyone is gushing so much about this game. It is a good game. And it is a feat by itself that you do not have raving fanboys all around hating on it just because it is a remake and is not exactly like their beloved original. And we do not know what they will give us in the sequels. But I'm afraid that's all the time we have together today. If you liked what you've seen, please subscribe, that helps a lot. You were watching The Gaming Greyhound, thank you for that. See you soon, goodbye. If you want to help me out, please subscribe, ring the bell. I'm pretty sure you have heard that in other videos before. Bye!